where they get it, and what their relationship with the news is.
Also, how does news in their countries influence others and vice versa?
Interviewers are from Ireland, England, Germany, Ghana, South Africa, and Brazil.
We will compare these to that of the United States. We take you now to field reporter Hannah Critchfield, who covered the story with her assistants and is on her way back.
Thanks, Jocelyn and Rebecca. We have gone across the Atlantic to get interviews from multiple countries. We found that they demonstrate that one's relationship with news media is greatly affected by where one lives, how much money they make, and that globalization has an effect on how news media spreads. Here's what we found.
I work with Associated Press, and AP really strives for no bias. In fact, just recently, with the election that just finished, there were several memos that went out about our personal comments on social media and through Facebook and tweets, as far as to not show any bias. That's a key thing for AP, because as with any media, your reputation is all you have. Limiting any bias and removing it is of utmost importance in order to retain the public's trust in the media.
I find it necessary to seek out the best news sources, so I go to a lot of different sources, but I do, it has to be unbiased news, because if it's biased, then it's not real news.
Trash. Meine Trash.
It's good. And do you think the news is good?
Yeah,
or
it's good.
Very good?
They
don't try to hide it?
Is that?
They don't try to like say bad things or hide it?
Oh, no.
Like, do you think it's biased or?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Here in Brazil, we actually have like an open TV that is free for everybody who buys a TV. You can watch it you don't pay for it. And sometimes it's not as trustful as it should be. They don't actually relate the facts, report the facts like they should. We have like a really big difference between poor people and rich people, and mostly people with more money have more access to information than poor people. And the only source, if you're really poor, mostly is the open channels. They normally believe that.
Yeah.
You see, they don't actually ask themselves if there is another view of the thing they're showing the TV. See, there are news about the government. There are really like, oh my gosh, the government is doing something good, and people just believe that. They can put on the TV just the good side,
Right.
and not the bad consequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like they lie, but they try to follow a different road,
Yeah.
like a strong opinion that maybe is not yours. So I don't trust that much.
Yeah.
You know, you should really try to search for a different opinion.
It seems that more modernized countries offer more news sources to their citizens, and thus the people try to be more selective in the sources that they follow. On the other hand, in countries where they have little infrastructure and aren't as modern, people tend to believe what they hear on a single source, because that is the only one that is available to them.
AP. I'll be honest, there's so much media now, it's a fine line between what is commentary and what is actual news. BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN sometimes, not so much, but also I use Yahoo News as just a quick database of where I can find information of different sources.
I've come to realize that a lot of the news that you get is very biased. And surprisingly enough, I get a lot of my news from like entertainment websites. There's other foreign news websites that has more truthful resources.
I go to internet. And I have a website. It's named Tagesschau.
Normally, I enjoy the international news.
International?
Yeah, we got a channel on our TV that you can turn to the international news.
Mostly the internet.
Internet.
Internet, yeah, sure.
Internet, 99.9% of the time.
One more than the other?
Internet 100% because it's easily accessible. A lot of them are free, and if they're not free, it's cheap, it's not expensive. So I get the New York Times to my Kindle.
I really love reading the newspapers because it's helping your reading and you get more information too. Mirror, News Guide, Junior Graphic, and Today.
The Mirror and Daily Guide.
I'd say the newspaper.
The newspaper?
Yeah. There's quite a few. There's the Argus, there's the Cape Town, there's the Burger. I think that's about it.
Okay, like for me, I mostly use TV and internet, but there are a lot of people in Brazil that don't have access to internet. So sometimes the TV is the only source for them.
More modernized countries, such as the U.S., tend to use the internet the most. But in semi-peripheral countries, such as Ireland, internet takes second and TV is in first place. The online news editor at the Irish Times noted that there are more newspaper readers in the country than there are online. He also said that Europe is actually 5 years behind the United States concerning the use of online media. He attributed this to the slower broadband internet the country has. Countries like Ghana, with little infrastructure, have newspapers as their dominant medium.
All the time. I check the news feed in the morning, throughout the day I'm constantly checking it. I'm a news junkie, so I just am always watching, reading the news.
Anywhere, whenever I go on, I like to be connected to everything. I always have to be connected. I want to know what's going on.
At my leisure time in the afternoon.
In the
Around
afternoon?
in the morning and in the evening.
Okay.
In the afternoon too.
Not daily, maybe. The newspaper is more or less daily, but sometimes weekly, sometimes every second day.
Mostly at home. When we are having dinner, the Open TV pass the news on the TV, so mostly we watch while we're eating. And
So,
sometimes,
yeah.
like during the day and the afternoon, you can check on the internet.
All of those interviewed, no matter how frequently they read the news or watched it or listened to it, found it necessary to know what was going on in their world.
We are global citizens, we're not just citizens of the United States, and as, of course, when we travel, I'm always monitoring what country we're going to and what's happening there. And for quite some time after we left the country, I pay attention to what's going on there and what's happening. Because it might not affect me now, but very well could affect me in a year or 2 years if I go back to that country.
Well, a lot of the people from other countries say that the United States news is very, everyone's very opinionated. And you have things like MSNBC and Fox who go at each other because one's Republican, one's Democrat, and it's clear, and a lot of it's just very biased. So it's a lot less honest and a lot of bad news instead versus good news.
Because the news about Ghana helps to know what is happening in our country and what was happening previously in our country.
Okay, the newspapers, they send around all over the world. So some people can buy it and read what has happened in our country here. And maybe if they want to develop something for us, then they come to our aid, then help us.
Quite bad.
Quite a bit too?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. The political situation is not great, and there's still a lot of things that they must fix up.
President Barack Obama frequently makes headlines in the news in other countries. People in other countries may be more in tune with the U.S. politics than its own citizens.
We live in a really interconnected global environment. We can't say that news that happens in the United States, whatever happens there, affects only the United States, and likewise whatever happens in Europe only affects Europe. they're interwoven. The economy isn't a U.S. problem. It's a global problem. So I think we really need to be in tune with what's happening in other parts of the world because it does affect us greatly.
It affects us a lot. So it's always in news. There's always a world news headline in there.
It helps us to know what is happening in other people's countries.
The media has a strong influence on people. Maybe we would have a really big change in Brazil, and we need that. We need people to believe in education. We need people to see that this is important, and the government is not actually working on this. So maybe media could like make people think about it at least.
And the more you know about all of these places, the more informed you are, and the more you're able to make better decisions. Now, I know you don't make a decision, but you send people to Congress that do make a decision, so that's why you should watch the news.
You have been listening to field reporter Hannah Critchfield. We will now go back to the newsroom to meet with Jocelyn and Rebecca.
Thanks, Hannah. Your relationship with the news is greatly affected by where you live, how much money you make, and how globalization affects how news media spreads. It is important to be knowledgeable of what is happening in the world around you, because you aren't the only one in the world. You have been watching SAS Channel 12. Good day.